I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Plummer,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia Ariola, Commissioner Mamrell,
Here?
and Vice Chair Margolotti,
Here.
and Chair Griggs. Vice Chair Margolotti, we were informed prior to the meeting that Chair Griggs would not be in attendance. We have not had any notification from Commissioner Garcia Ariola.
Okay, thank you. Do we need to excuse Commissioner Griggs' absence or no? Because
It's excused because she did
just
already
okay,
prior to.
sounds good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comments for items that are not on the agenda? Or from our audience?
I missed my partner, Fran Lemus. I'd just like to say that I just noticed the PG&E corner down there has gotten some trees planted, and it's looking better. So, being parks and trees, kind of thought I'd let you guys know that. It's nice.
Oh, thanks, Fran.
Thank you. Do we have any from public comments submitted?
No public comments were submitted prior to the meeting, and we have no one in Zoom
Okay.
that would like to make a
All right,
comment.
thank you. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? Nope. Okay. All right, so then we'll move to consent calendar and the approval of the meeting minutes for April 13th of 2023. We need to make a motion to that?
I move to approve.
I will second that.
All right. Roll call on that?
Yes. Commissioner Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Mamrell,
Yes?
Vice Chair Margolotti.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. So then we can move on to business item. Draft fiscal year 2023-24 annual work plan for the Parks and Community Service Commission.
Thank you, Vice Chair Margolotti. We are here this evening to discuss and create a draft work plan for fiscal year 2023-24 for a joint special meeting with City Council on June 20th. As a reminder, the draft work plan, this commission serves as an advisory capacity to the City Council and staff. Each fiscal year, the commission will develop a work plan for the upcoming fiscal year. The work plan will list issues and projects to be addressed by the commission and should be consistent with the council's adopted goals and priorities pertaining to parks, recreation, and community services. Last year, we had a work plan, and it had several items on it, and we actually accomplished quite a lot. So I'm super proud of us and the hard work that we've done, and we really need to focus on this upcoming year. So as part of your packet this evening, on a separate packet, we created a draft work plan of some of the ideas, staff's recommendations of what we feel this commission could really help us accomplish and finish or even start for this next upcoming year. And please keep in mind that we're looking at more high-level type of things that are driven by either decision-making or recommendations to council, not focusing so much on the operational side of things, but more policy-driven, budget, if it's tied to budget. So on the draft, that is for you this evening, we have number one, which is preparing a request for proposal, which is an RFP to update the Parks and Community Services Master Plan. We talked last meeting and discussed that we do want to update the Parks and Community Services Master Plan, but we really want to make sure that the city completes their general plan, and we don't think that that's going to be completed until December of 2023. We also really want to consider that we're adding the other guiding documents, like our bike plan, should be considered in that master plan as well. So having those bones to really update the master plan, the Parks and Community Services Master Plan, is going to be very vital to what we're doing. To start that process, because we don't know how much that's going to cost and the time and energy, putting out an RFP of having a consultant really help us, especially with the community engagement and writing of that plan, because it can be a pretty very broad perspective plan and a lot of information that's in there that we're going to most likely want to have some help from a consultant. So starting that process and getting an RFP out to understand what it would cost to get the master plan updated, so that way we can add that cost to next budget year for fiscal year 24-25 to actually update the plan. So number one would be preparing a request for proposal to start that process of updating the master plan. Number two is talking about, the fiscal year 2023-24 capital improvement program projects pertaining to parks, recreation, and projects. On the back side of the draft, just to give you an idea, we have 15 projects identified for next year that are going to, in some shape or form, will have either just a review and comment or more of like an informational item. And we really wanted to just identify those projects to you of what's being planned for next year that pertain to parks, recreation, and community services. Item number 3 is update the 2023 Parks and Recreation Department user fee schedule. We did a lot of great work of updating those fees, of really trying to make that adjustment of not touching them for 19 years. But we also, during our past conversations, we identified that this was going to be an incremental process. The resolution does call for a CPI adjustment where we don't need to go to City Council for those adjustments, but what we're proposing and what we've talked about is not only doing a CPI, but also doing a market adjustment to really make sure that those fees get more in line to what those programs cost. And that is going to have a process with all of us in this room talking about it, and it will need to go to Council for approval as part of the budget process. So you would be part of that process. Item number 4 is thinking big picture out in the future. We already have a lot of our projects planned for fiscal year 23-24, but we really want to think about what does 24-25 look like. The council has identified some money that they want to create a new bucket. It's the repair and replacement fund for Parks and Recreation. This is truly for repairing and replacing. It's not adding a new shiny object to what we already have. A lot of the parks that we have, there's some deferred maintenance that we would like to address. And so council has identified that. And so we really want to use this next year and plan out what those repair and replacement projects look like for fiscal year 24 and 25. So that way we're ahead of the game and we do this every single year. We're planning ahead, we're being proactive. And then number 5, facility naming for the former Napa Junction Elementary School site. As you are aware, the city acquired that property back in September, and we will be using it this summer for our summer programming. And right now, it's still named the Napa Junction Elementary School, which is very confusing for the community. And we do have a process. There is a formal policy of renaming facilities, and that would be part of this. This commission would be part of renaming that building. Those are our recommendations. Also, as part of your packet this evening, you received, in the staff report, you received some other additional items that the PCS has identified in past years of things that they potentially would want to focus on. Really, our goal here is this evening is to really identify the policy-driven, the budget-driven, the advisory-driven type of items. So if you see anything on those lists or you have any ideas that you want to add to this list, we can now open it up for discussion. Thank you.
Would we check to see if there's any public comment on this business item before we discuss, or will we do questions first?
It's completely up to you, Chair. We can start the discussion and then check in. Right now, we currently do not.
Okay.
Unless there's anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment. Doesn't appear so.
Okay. All right. So we can open it up for questions.
I have a question on item number 4 for the work plan, the repair and replacement fund plan for small projects. I know you said you want to identify future projects for replacement or repair for 24-25. What is the current list look like now for that fund?
Great question. Thank you, Commissioner. I was going to call you council, but you're a commissioner. So the council this year has identified $2.7 million that they're going to be putting into this bucket. About $700,000 of that is going to be used in fiscal year 23-24. And those projects, if you look at the draft on the back page, I can easily identify them for you. 2 park restrooms, one being at Silver Oak and one being at Northampton Park, a shade structure at Northampton Park, and a rubber surfacing at Via Bellagio Park. That is what has been identified for this fiscal year of what is going to be part of the repair and replacement. So when fiscal year 24-25 come around, we have about a remaining balance, fund balance of about $2 million. What we're thinking about each year is having kind of the same mindset of the same budget, roughly about $500,000, so $500,000 of allocation towards future repair replacement projects for 24-25. They are smaller projects. Again, we're not adding new shiny things. We're really just trying to focus on things that we know that need to be repaired or replaced or deferred maintenance, or we know that we have irrigation issues at Com Park 1. I'm sorry, that's also part of the $700,000 is addressing Com Park 1. So those are the projects that kind of like what we're thinking about, knowing that we have those issues and problems. We never really have had the ability to get them fixed or replaced, and using that money and thinking in the future of what those projects would look like.
Thank you. Could you repeat those?
Yes.
Because you went through them a little fast for me. I got Com Park 1, you said North, but could you repeat that?
Absolutely. So number 6, Northampton Park Shade Canopy. Number 7, Northampton Restroom. Number 8, Community Park 1 improvements. Number 9, Silver Oak Restroom. Number 10, Via Bellagio Playground resurfacing. Are all identified for that is coming out of that repair and replacement fund. And that's roughly about $700,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just quick clarification. 11 adult activity center flooring replacement. Is that part of it as well?
That's part of just the regular CIP.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
right,
so we
got
have
it, okay.
15 projects identified. They all have different funding sources.
Got it, okay.
Sometimes it comes from general fund, like the flooring will be general fund, and versus like park impact fees are usually for like expanding a park amenity. So you'll notice that like the skate park relocation project, there's some funds are general funds, some funds are park impact fees. The playground replacement is park impact fees as well as a grant. So the funding source varies, but these are all the projects that are identified that are going to be completed in fiscal year 23-24.
Okay.
I have another question. Sorry, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask about specific things, but looking at the CIP projects for 23-24, number 3, outdoor education projects at the wetlands. Can you clarify what that is?
Yeah, so this has been a project that has been on our to-do list for several years. We received a grant down at the wetlands. It's going to have a permanent park restroom as well as a 3-season shade canopy for an outdoor education, as well as interpretive signage. We were hoping to get that project done this fiscal year, but because of the extensive amount of work that would take to get that permanent restroom in, we actually have to go out for an RFP. The idea is to put the permanent restroom in the current location where the portable restroom is at now, but the utilities to where that location is very far away, so it's a lot of trenching and a lot of work, and that would require us to go out for an RFP to be able to do that work. So we're pushing it to 23-24 because of the RFP process. We didn't think that we had to do that, but after working with our public works director, who is the city's engineer, she identified that this project is a little bit more extensive than what we had originally planned.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because my second question follow-up would have been, isn't there a bathroom scheduled for wetlands? And so it's not explicitly listed as such, but the outdoor education project sounds like it includes
Correct.
the bathroom as well.
It does include the
And
restroom.
just a follow-up question on the bathroom, because I live close there. Is it going to be a singular-use bathroom, or is it going to be multi-use bathroom? Because I know, and the reason I ask is because, with the addition of outdoor education improvements, with the addition of the exercise equipment, with the addition of just a lot of activations that are happening there, a single-use bathroom might be a little bit limited or provide limitations.
Right now, it's going to be an all-gender single restroom for that location. That is what's planned for that location.
I had a couple of questions. So, there's 5 items, and I know we have more than 5 meetings. Are there any that you would see taking more than 1 meeting? As far as a plan, and what kind of, preparing a request for proposal for the master plan, like what would our role be in that? Because I think you just put it out there and asked, so I don't know what our role would be in that too. So I'm wondering if you can clarify.
So kind of what I talked about with the OSATS Commission last week is, the goal is not to get everything completed within a year. Yes, we want to try to complete as much as we can, but some items are going to take longer than others. We know that the master plan it's going to take us multiple years to get that completed. First, we have to do the RFP. We have to develop that. You will be a part of that process of developing what the RFP looks like and what we're asking the consultant to do for us. And so that is where you will be a part of that process. What are we asking the consultant to do? Do we want them to do community engagement? What is the master plan? What is the purpose of the master plan? So really writing that together and having you be a part of that process is crucial, since this is the body that it would go to as a part of that project. But the fiscal year 23-24 capital improvement programs, some items are going to be review and comment, and some items are going to be more informational. Like we already have the playground replacement project. That's more informational at this point. It's already gone past the review and comment. Same with the skate park. There's going to be some things that, really, like all the other ones we haven't really talked about. So you will be a part of that process. The update, the 2023 Parks and Community Services Department user fee schedule, that needs to get done before June of 2024, because we want that to be a part of the budget process. So I would expect that we would start that process in December, the latest. And then planning for fiscal year 24-25. What do we want to do? Again, that needs to be part of the budget process as well. For facility naming of the former Napa Junction, that's a pretty extensive process from what I was reading of the policy. It does require a TAC meeting or a TAC committee, which is one person from council, one person from this commission, a community member at large, and then a youth member at large that comes together and brainstorms and comes up with a name, and then it goes to this commission for review and comment, and then we make the recommendation to council. That's a pretty extensive process. And there's parameters around that too. But the point that I'm trying to make is just because we have it identified on the work plan, if we don't get it done doesn't mean that you're not working hard. It just means that we need more time, and that's okay. The idea is these are the things that we've identified that we want to focus on. We need resources to do that, council, and bring that to them on the 20th, and they're going to say yay, nay, okay, rubber stamp it, and move forward. Where it gets a little tricky is where we were to where we're going. If a new item pops up in the middle of the year, we have to come together as a body and identify, okay, what from this list are we going to take off and replace with this, and get approval from council to do that. That is a new process. Once we create the work plan and once it's been adopted by council, we don't have the ability to just add to the plate. So that's why we're having this process over the next 2 meetings to really discuss what do we want to focus on over the next 12 months. And it's okay if we don't get it done, because we can always push it to next work plan. Kind of like what we're doing with the Parks and Community Services Master Plan.
What's the timeline for the RFP? I know I've done a lot of RFPs, and I'm just curious, what's our timeline and what are the milestones in between those timelines that we should be looking at?
So if we really are to think about this RFP, we would want to start it sooner rather than later, because if we are going to be hiring a consultant, we need to know how much that consultant is going to cost, and we need to make sure that that's part of the budget process for next year. And so with the RFP, we have to develop it, we have to put it out for so many days, we have to receive them, we have to choose a vendor, and then they're going to tell us how much it's going to cost to do that. That is going to take some time, and I would think that we would want to have it done prior to March of 2024. That's really when I start working, like everything is submitted to finance for next fiscal year. So I usually start a budget process for the next year in December. And so ideally, having that number before March would be best case scenario. But then we also have to prioritize on the other stuff that we're doing as well. And so last work plan, what we did is we tried to prioritize it based off of quarter and really focus. And you can do multiple things in a meeting. We don't have to just focus on one item. We can really try to be strategic about it and really be mindful of our time and carve time out for each meeting. Like if we know that the RFP is going to take over several months, but we need to meet about it and discuss it, we can have it be a business item, kind of like what council does, is they have multiple items on their agenda, they discuss it, and then they move on to the next item. We don't have to focus on one thing per meeting. It could be multiple items. It's just been so heavy with one multiple thing because they've just been pretty big projects. But you can stack a meeting. So it doesn't have to be, the focus doesn't have to be solely one item per meeting.
Did you want any prioritization of these items that are here right now, or come up with that once we meet with council?
We can come up with that for next meeting. I can kind of just want to focus on really what your ideas are of if you want to add anything, or if you want to add any other comments or delete something, if you feel like we should push it. That's really what this conversation is for. I did receive comments from Chair Griggs, and she did mention she's okay with, she agrees with the capital improvement projects pertaining to Parks and Recreation. I do think that needs to stay. We have 15 projects on the book that you are going to want to know about and be involved in, and you are going to have that review and comment before it goes to council. So that needs to stay. Update the Parks and Community Services Master Plan. We've kind of altered that to create an RFP to start that process. And then update the department user fee schedule for 2023. That needs to stay as well. If we really truly are going to be close to what it costs for our programs and really identify the cost recovery percentages, that all that work that we've done with the pyramids, we really do need to continue that work and try to get close to those percentages as possible to stay relevant. And then she did have, just for some additional items to consider, develop of Eastside Community Garden, which could be a fiscal year 24-25, or, you know, it could, I take that back. It cannot be, because it's not a repair and replacement. It's a shiny brand new thing. So maybe that's a fiscal year 24-25 CIP. That's not part of the repair and placement fund, but it's a CIP project that we consider. So we can table that for next year's CIP. And then plan for the Wetlands Botanical Native Garden. Again, that could be like a 24-25 project as well. She had annual Newell Open Space Community Trail and Run Walk. That's more operational. That's more down with staff, organizing and planning with programming. And then she had sports and activity programming for teens. That's more operational as well. Those, excuse me. That's all I have for right now.
I have a question about the CIP projects. The pool's in perfect running condition. There's nothing identified there that needs to be repaired or replaced.
For this upcoming year, it is not slated to add or expand to the aquatic facility. We do, when I started with the city over a year ago, we did identify a 5-year CIP program project. And within that plan, we did identify expanding the aquatic facility. I believe that's either slated for fiscal year 24 or fiscal year 25. There is a need to repurpose the play pool. I've identified that early on. It's just not functional at all. And with the amount of swim lessons that we offer, we do need a proper play pool that can teach our Learn to Swim program. And we do need a proper area for toddlers to be able to splash and play. My ideas are pretty grand. I will be honest about that. I do envision something that's a little bit more functional and user-friendly with our toddlers, but it's not for this year. It's definitely about a year or two out.
For item number 2, while I'm very reluctant to, add things, or maybe these items would be for 2024 to 25. But are there any, okay, so here they are. Parking lot expansion and a shade canopy over at the wetlands. Is that something that's being considered for this fiscal year, or maybe something for next year?
Parking lot expansion at the wetlands?
Yeah.
No, we don't have that slated. No.
Okay.
No, that's not in the plan that we have for the next 5 years.
Same with shade canopy over at the wetlands?
The shade canopy is going to be part of the outdoor education
okay.
project. It would be a 3-season shade canopy that would be used for any function. We're envisioning it to be kind of the canopy, and then people can come in and make it what they want, not having permanent fixtures in there, being able to have it be a multi-purposed area. So if we had a class that comes out and needs shade and they want to bring tables and chairs out, it's easy. If somebody wants to get married down there, that's an option. Just having that flexibility to utilize that space in many different ways.
Okay. I'm sorry, just to clarify, it's a movable shade structure?
No, I'm talking about when you think about an outdoor education area, typically what you'll see is a shade structure with permanent seating, either stone or wood or benches. We're not doing that. It's just going to be shade, and it's going to be open-aired.
So it can be configurable.
Converted in any way.
Right.
It could be multi-use, multi-purposed.
Okay. And for number 5, is there a time frame for the facility naming, or is that just part of the process?
It's going to take time. It's going to take time based off what the policy is. It's a pretty extensive process with a lot of community engagement where people can submit their ideas on a form, and that TAC committee reviews those and comes together and tries to come up with something to make the recommendation to this commission, and then the commission discusses that and then takes it to council. I don't see that happening in a month or two. It most likely is going to be 6 to 8 months, in my opinion, based off of reading the policy, just because of the amount of community engagement that you need to do to really survey what name we want to, when you rename a facility or a park.
But the TAC committee, how soon do you think the TAC, because that would be the initial start of the process.
Yeah.
Is the formation of that. How do you see the timeline for that committee formation?
I see that, so part of this process is we have the joint special meeting with council on the 20th. If they identify that this being a part of that process, we would let them know that we need to create a TAC meeting. We would need one person from that council to be a part of it. We would need one person from this commission, so you guys would need to recommend somebody from this commission to be a part of that. We need to find a community member, an adult community member, and then we need to find a youth member. So that's going to take some time to go out and get those pieces together. And once we have those pieces together, then you would start meeting and starting that process based off of the policy. So depending on how quickly that recruitment happens and how quickly we find people, we can start that process.
I had one other question about future City of American Canyon Parks and Recs priorities. You have listed on the page the Newell Open Space Management Plan, Clark Ranch Master Plan Update, and certainly the Master Plan for Parks and Recs. With the new Watson Ranch development coming in, there's certainly new parks and developments that are happening there. How does that play into this? And it's a two-part question, because when we put together the RFP, that obviously has to fall under consideration as well, too.
Right.
So I don't see that listed here. Does that fall under a specific topic already?
No, so the plan for Watson Ranch isn't fully finalized yet. There's still several changes that are occurring, to my understanding. There's with the developer, there are some parks that have been identified there, but the plan, to my understanding, is still a plan. It hasn't come to fruition quite yet. So with to your point, as the general plan and the Parks and Community Services master plan, that would need to be considered as part of this conversation, right? What does the future of our Parks and Recreation look like, including all of those spaces? What type of programming and services is the department going to offer? More broad perspective. That would not be part of. We're not a part of that planning process, but that could definitely be a part of the conversation when we build the RFP. Like, hey, these are future parks that are down the road, down the pipeline, or this is what it's going to be. Really, what also needs to be a part of the RFP is our growing community. Our community is growing by 10,000 people over the next several years. That's a big impact. Our aquatic center is fits this community now, but what do we look like in the future? What are future needs? And where do we see additional parks, or what is the vision? And that vision really needs to align with the council's vision, and that's why we need the bones of the general plan to be able to do that. Because our plan should not be separate from the the general plan. It really just needs to speak to each other, and we also need to incorporate the bike plan. That is a plan that was incorporated several years ago, and that needs to be incorporated into our master plan, because active transportation and trails and open space, that's part of a lot of what we do here. And OSATS is going to be a part of that conversation with the open space. So there's going to be several pieces that we need to put together to build this RFP. That we need to have in place and discuss and make sure that we are encompassing everything, because when we go out for an RFP with a consultant, we don't want to miss anything. We want to make sure that we are being clear and of what our needs are and what we want to hire them for, because we need to be able to budget for that. We need to be able to plan for that.
Thank you for the clarification. On page 2 of that insert, again, where you had those listed out as roles and responsibilities for the PCS, again, would that future projects or future parks fall under one of those 3 categories, or is it a new category that needs to be added on there? And again, the reason I really ask is because of the RFP process, because it's something that needs to be identified, whether we have a hand in it or not. I'm just more curious about that.
Yeah, so when we talk about future projects, right now we have fiscal year 23-24 for our capital improvement projects, program projects, which we have 15 projects identified. And then we also have on the plan future, repair and replacement for just, again, repair and replacement of things that we already have. We can even get a little bit more broader, like what do the capital improvement projects look for fiscal year 24-25? Because everything that you're seeing on here, things have been added. All the things that we've talked about that are under now the repair and replacement were added to the original plan that was created last year. So there is an opportunity to add additional things, like the additional community garden on the east side would be an addition. A wetlands botanical native garden down at the wetlands, that would be a project. We can think ahead, and I actually would prefer that to plan out. Instead of being in this reactive mode, we're being proactive about the projects that are happening. And we can really look at the plan of what has been planned, like the aquatic center. You can see all the things that are out there, the barn at Newell Open Space. There's a lot of things that the city has already identified as a need to focus on. We just need to get it done. We just need to talk about it and get it done.
Does that include, because again, when you look ahead to future CIP projects, I mean, there's things that have a lifespan, right?
Correct.
And so you can always calculate, hey, that's a 10-year lifespan or a 20-year lifespan, and there's got to be things that are coming up to their end of duration or lifespan that would be added to future CIP projects, correct?
Correct. So that would be that repair and replacement project. So really looking at a lot of those deferred maintenance type things, like we're replacing 3 playgrounds. We have 19 playgrounds in this community. 19. We are replacing 3 of them. And there's several others that could easily be replaced. There's also been talk about adding a restroom at Newell Open Space. There's also where else can we add a restroom to our parks? A lot of our parks are no longer neighborhood parks. They're more of a regional draw. So having a restroom for our residents to use would be really beneficial. We have a lot of turf issues. Where in the city are we using a park for an athletic field, and it was not intended to be designed as an athletic field, but now it is an athletic field because sports is growing. Our sports population is growing. You know, with the overhaul of the current community garden, that has been a conversation over some time, really redrawing those plot lines and having elevated plots for accessibility, and then also getting it off of potable water, making sure they're on the recycled water. That has been a discussion. So when we talk about repair and replacements and things like that, the things that we already have, how can we improve them, or what is deferred maintenance that's currently out there that we can plan for? And they're going to be on the smaller side. They're not going to be like large, like we're not going to redo Kimberly Park. Like that's a very grand thing. So just think more on the smaller level, like what playground needs to be replaced, where can we sprinkle, where can we have the most bang for our buck and sprinkle throughout the city these improvements.
I'm just really happy to hear that there's an identified fund of money that would be ongoing for that, because that has not existed before. And I know that's something that's been requested and asked for and expressed need, so that is really great. When you talked about, just a question, the 2.7 million, but then there'd be some, and then whatever's remaining for the following year, is that like every 2 years, a 2.7 million, or
No,
just a fiscal year?
So the idea is that this is going to be an ongoing fund that's going to be replenished. And this commission doesn't have to worry about the replenishment. That's going to be up to council. It's going to start off with 700,000 is going to be used for fiscal year 23-24. We're allocating about 500,000 for 24-25, and then the following year it will be about 500,000 as well, and it will just be on this reoccurring cycle. The replenishment will come from reserves, and that will be automatically allocated. The council really, they wanted to identify some buckets to address some ongoing things, and one of them is deferred maintenance in parks and recreation with all the facilities, because that has been something that they've heard a lot of feedback about, of just really trying to address that and making sure that, you know, yes, it's nice to have the shiny new object, but what do you do about the things that we already have? To your point, everything has a life. What's that life? Like a playground is 15 years, right? Depending on the manufacturer. You know, that needs to be on a schedule. We need to know what that schedule is, and we need to plan ahead for it and be in this more of this proactive approach rather than this reactive approach, because then you start having a lot of deferred maintenance that just piles up over time, and now your deferred maintenance is greater than the amount of money that you have to be able to fix it. So I think this was a very smart decision by council. I think it was something they heard the community talk about. And now this I think it's really exciting. I'm actually really excited about this because park impact fees really should be used to either add a new park or expand something in that park. Like for instance, Napa Cove, that's gonna be a new park. We're gonna most likely use park impact fees for that, because it's gonna be a brand new park here in American Canyon. Northampton Park, we were able to use park impact fees for that because we increased accessibility. We've made it into an all-inclusive universal play experience, so we were able to do that. But so just thinking in that mindset of what buckets of money and where can it be used and what are the restrictions, and address a lot of the different needs that we have with our current amenities.
Any other questions or comments? No? Is there anybody that would like in public comment out there in Zoom? No? Okay. I have unrelated questions on here. Would we be talking about the calendar for PCS meetings for the following year? Or we just kind of, because I know we've done that kind of at the end is May. I guess we have a June meeting, don't we?
Yes.
Okay. So would that be on the June meeting then?
We can add it to the June
Okay.
meeting. Yeah.
All right.
Don't forget Liz.
Okay. I was thinking this is the end of the year, but I guess we still have
I
June.
know it's kind of creeping up on it. It's kind of creeping up. I just realized that it's May.
Yeah.
It's here. Summer's in like a month, and I just signed up for summer camp, so I'm ahead of the game so far.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, so we're then I guess are we making any recommendations at this point that to go ahead with these 5 items to discuss with our joint council and commission meeting?
So what we can do is, if you don't want to add anything, what we can do is I'll take this list back and I can try to come up with some prioritization and understanding of what it, what it's going to look like, of when we think it's going to happen and what type of resources we're going to need. So when we go to council, we can express that to them, because I know they're going to want to know that. Like the RFP, we know that's going to be staff time. We know that's going to be commission time. I don't foresee us needing a consultant to do that, but it's just more of identifying if there's any additional resources that we need as part of this plan. We meet on June, when's the June meeting? Right before the 20th, we have one more meeting, and that's where we can button up this. Thank you, June 8th. So what we can do is we can button up this draft work plan and get ready for the joint special meeting on the 20th. And that our time is going to be at 8:30 with council.
Is that during a regular meeting?
It's going to be during a council meeting. So we're going to meet on the 8th, and then we're going to have our joint special meeting on the 20th with council.
At 8:30 p.m.?
At 8:30 p.m.
Okay. And then would we be in the audience, or how does that work? Or do we go into a meeting room with them, or is that on Zoom, or what does that look like?
It would be a public meeting. We can't do Zoom anymore. All Brown Act meetings have to happen in person. And for you to be a part of that discussion as a commissioner, you do have to be here in person. Most likely what would happen is we would draft a staff report that would get submitted to council, and then council would sit at the dais. We would most likely sit in the audience, and if they have any questions or comments, we can use the podium to address those questions or comments. That's my best guess. It could change.
Okay. All right. So then we can go ahead and just make a recommendation?
Do you guys want to add anything? Are you guys okay with this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Sounds
We're going to
good.
be busy.
All right, thank you. So we can go ahead and move on to management and staff reports.
Perfect. So I have two, just as a reminder, we have our joint special meeting on June 20th at 8:30. It is in person. If you can attend, that would be greatly appreciated, to be able to be in support of your work plan. And if they have any specific questions for you, you could at least be there and be a part of that conversation. Also, want to let you know that tomorrow, if you do kind of want to get an idea of what's going on with the budget ahead of time, tomorrow there is a subcommittee meeting at 9 a.m. Here in the council chambers. And then on May 16th, they will be talking about the budget as well. So there's two upcoming meetings pertaining to budget for the next fiscal year. And then as a reminder, all communication from the city is going to happen through your city email, so please make sure that you stay on top of that. We try our best to keep you all informed of any updates or anything like that. So if you're having any trouble connecting to your city emails, just please let us know, and we'll get you in contact with those individuals that can assist you. That is it. Thank you.
And as far as commissioner reports, there is a report submitted by myself, Vice Chair Margolotti, which is attached to the agenda. All right, so then I guess we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:15 p.m. Oh,
What about Memorial Day?
Nope, didn't talk about it, but Memorial Day is scheduled. It's going to be on May 29th at Veterans Park from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. We are working with Lions Troop Support and VFW for the military services. Come on down and participate in the ceremony. Correct. Cindy is our lead coordinator for all the military customs. Yeah. Yes.
you'll need to contact Cindy then, or she'll be finding you.
Yes.
All right, good. All right, thank you. So we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Good job, Kathy.